Hey everyone, welcome back to your week ahead astrology breakdown. I'm Matthew Oliver from Stillwater Alchemy, and this week we have a full moon. We have a lot of intense aspects, and intense doesn't mean bad. I always just think that intense can also be a synonym for powerful. So we're going to jump straight into it. Last week on Friday here in Canada, one of our biggest cell phone internet providers crashed. And so internet was down. People couldn't call on this network. They couldn't pay interact at stores and businesses. So people were asking me with the astrology, what was that? Remember on Friday of last week, we had the moon in Scorpio opposing Mars in Taurus. And so if we're talking about money and power and control, that's very much linked with that Scorpio Taurus axis. And also the moon was opposing Uranus, so unexpected change and people being frustrated for long periods of time. That energy lasted all day long. The systems didn't come back until Saturday. So that was a very interesting aspect to take place. And then also a good reminder just to always carry cash on you, because people were traveling like at airports or just train stations and were not able to pay because they didn't have any cash, and they couldn't even go to the ATM because they were also down. So I thought that was a very interesting manifestation of the astrology. And jumping into this week, we have the full moon approaching on Wednesday, that full moon in Capricorn. And this is also something we're starting July 11th, Monday, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. This Uranus North Node conjunction, the North Node is retrograde right now, so it's getting closer and closer to Uranus. And we also have Mars in Taurus. So this is just something I was curious about and looking at when I was prepping for today's video, and looking to your Taurus house to see where there are changes happening or where you might be feeling frustrated or angry or passionate, right? All these Martian themes that are going to be taking place, because Mars is going to be in Taurus until mid-August. And this conjunction between Mars, Uranus, and North Node is going to be taking place around July 31st, August 1st, depending on your time zone. So you might already be feeling this energy of where you want to be putting in a lot of focus, or where a lot of disturbances or changes or alchemy is taking place in your life. So I just want to bring that up because it's going to be more and more obvious as the month goes along, and knowing where that is in your own natal chart will just make this a lot easier to discern and see where you want to be making those shifts. And it might already be very obvious. I know for me, Taurus rules my fifth house, where we find pleasure and adventure and fitness and sport. And for me, I'm like, yes, I want to put more energy into that. That's something I just want to enjoy for the summer. So wherever that falls in for you, I just felt called to bring that up. So Monday, we have the moon in Sagittarius, making that applied square to Neptune and also in opposition to Venus. For me, this is don't assume anything. Be very cognizant of what you're taking in on social media. Sometimes with Neptune transits, especially in like involving the moon, and also Venus is making that applied square to Neptune all week. So this can just be really interesting in the sense that we get caught up in the fantasy, we get caught up in delusion, and we get caught up in something that isn't real. And then we get mad at it. And then we're getting mad at something that isn't even real. And then it's just taking us away from reality. And Monday's a good day to get grounded for the entire week, because we have the moon making that applied sextile to Saturn. This is also an interesting manifestation because I'm filming this on Monday morning, and I had a dream last night about a female energy in my life. And then I woke up being so irritated. I'm like, I knew I always didn't like her. And I was like, that was a dream. It doesn't necessarily have to be real. But I'm so visceral with my dreams, and that you can be connected with different people and different energies. So it was very Neptunian energy. It's like that episode of Friends where Phoebe is mad at Ross the entire episode, and Ross is trying to figure out why she is so upset with him. And then eventually it was revealed that Ross called Phoebe boring. And then Ross was like, I never said that. And Phoebe, it was revealed that it was a dream and that it wasn't even real. That's very much this energy. So it could be a disturbance or a disagreement with a female presence in your life, or a female energy within yourself. And this is just something to note if you have prominent mutable energy in your chart. So Sag, Gemini, Pisces, or Virgo, that you might just feel overwhelmed with emotions or with relationships or with your own beauty. Sometimes with Moon, Venus aspects, it can be insecurities around your finances, your beauty, your relationships. So I would then, to use this to your advantage, either get lost in the dream, the brainstorming, allow yourself to let go and just enjoy the ride so that you're not fighting it the entire day. Also, I'm hearing like food. Sometimes you can be like, I don't want to have that treat, or someone brings in a box of cookies or muffins to the office and you're like, no, I need to start off my week well. It's like, you can just enjoy the cookie or the muffin. You don't have to be in your head about it all day. And then just focus on the work, focus on what you need to get done and be productive. And that can help ground you and not get lost in all of this mutable energy throughout the day. Okay. Tuesday, we're then approaching the full moon. That's going to be happening on Wednesday. But on Tuesday, we also have this really interesting trine between the moon and Mars in Taurus. And then the moon is also going to be making an applied trine to Taurus, to Uranus and Taurus Tuesday, Wednesday as well, right? So I'm curious about this in terms of, often when we approach a full moon, it's like we're approaching a climax, we're approaching a spotlight moment, we're approaching a summation of energy with this, because remember that the moon is exalted in Taurus, Mars is exalted in Capricorn. So this trine, these planets can help each other out. So I think that there could be some kind of long-term accomplishment or investment or promotion that's in the works, whether that be something that you receive, something that you're really hungry for, and that you're like, this is now what I want to pursue. This is something that's really important to me. I want to go after this. It could be another income stream. It could be a shift of finances, or it could just be you getting more grounded in yourself with your health and nutrition. If we're talking about Taurus and this Martian energy of like, we talked about this either last video or the video before with Mars and Taurus, it can really be sinking your teeth into something that you want to pursue long-term or going at your own pace. And this full moon energy that's going to be approaching could really highlight that. And this could also be a good note if you're maybe working on saving money, or if you want to accumulate more money. See what's coming through download wise Tuesday, Wednesday, just because there's a lot that could be taking place. And even just kind of noting where Taurus and Capricorn fall into your own natal chart, so you can see this energy and how it's manifesting. Because also too, on Tuesday, the moon is making that square with Jupiter. So I just think that there's opportunity for new energy, new money, or not even new energy or money, but just energy and money coming into focus. But also, if the universe said new, we're talking about cardinal signs, we're talking about Capricorn and Aries. So there definitely could be, and I keep hearing promotion or just money. So if you've been wanting to have that conversation with a superior or promoting something online or on social media, I would do so on Tuesday to see what happens on Wednesday when we have that full moon. So here's the thing. The moon is said to be in her detriment in Capricorn. We have the moon co-present and pretty much conjunct Pluto. The moon is also opposing Mercury. And so it could be, what I am intuiting is like searching for the truth. It can lead you down a path of being paranoid or being unsure or not confident, right? We have that opposition with Mercury, and Pluto is very dramatic. It can bring a lot of energy to the surface, and it might not even be you, right? It could be you are the byproduct or receiving this from someone else. And again, intense doesn't mean bad. It can also be a representation of power and where you need to reclaim power or where you need to calm your mind. And this can also be very much a head versus heart energy, right? With Mercury in Cancer being the heart, moon in Capricorn being the head. And this for me is sometimes, when you want something really bad and it just is a matter of time. It isn't good, it isn't bad. It just means that you have to do this and this before we can have this. So the full moon for me might reveal something, especially in regards to a dream. The moon will be making a sextile to Neptune retrograde, something you've always wanted. It's like, you just need to do this. And there's no way of getting around it. There's no magic or manifestation necessarily that can bypass the work and the time needed to create the structure and foundation to get what you want. And you may be kind of like racking your head or going around in circles, being like, how can I get this done? Or it seems impossible. It's just one step in front of the next. So don't allow the how of your dream or of that manifestation to deter you. Or if other people are saying it's impossible, this can also be like people of authority, or it could even be a father or a mother getting in your head, or maybe not believing in you, or working through parental trauma or issues for you to stand in your own power to accomplish that dream, right? And then the moon is also making the trine with Uranus. So there is a lot of volatility with this, and volatile could be in a good way to project you into a new level, or it could be all consuming. So it is kind of very telling that Monday and Tuesday of this week are to help calm us down, to help bring us into our heart space, to help ground us, so that by Wednesday, we're in an ample space to receive more power, more money, more opportunity for long-term growth. Instead of us getting caught up in our heads and letting our mind and our ego control us, we're able to control the narrative or to calm ourselves to move forward accordingly. Okay, so this is a week where, in true Capricorn fashion, you have to do the work. You're not going to be able to bypass this. It's not going to be easy per se. It can be easy, but it's not going to be inherently given to you. You have to show up and do the work. And that'll be very much highlighted for those who aren't doing the work. It might be a very stern but loving reality check for this full moon for everyone, but especially for those who have just been kind of not showing up. Okay. Okay. However, Thursday comes, and now we have the moon in Aquarius making that sextile to Jupiter. The moon is also making a square to Mars. For me, I just kind of thought, don't force it. If it doesn't feel good, if what you're pursuing isn't in alignment, it could be a relationship, it could be an ideal, it could be a certain job where you're like, I know I could make more money working for myself. Why do I keep staying at this job? Or I know I could be a lot happier not in this relationship. So why do I keep going again and again and again? It could also just feel like you're hitting a brick wall or a glass ceiling, and maybe that full moon revealed it. It's like, I don't need to keep doing this, or I don't need to keep doing something just because I've created a structure around it, or because I've created a foundation. My entire life or my whole identity revolves around this. If it doesn't feel good anymore, I want you to consider, should I even keep doing this? Does it make sense for me to continue to go again and again and again? Because depending on your time zone, Wednesday, Thursday, with the moon hitting Pluto retrograde, you will feel that power shift, and where you want to give your power or want to take the power back, or what the truth of the matter is, right? We talked about that stern reality check with the full moon. That could also just be with yourself or revealed by someone else. So that's just something I want you to discern Thursday, because Friday, there's new boundaries, new relationships, new things to celebrate with the moon conjunct Saturn retrograde, and then the moon and Saturn making that trine to Venus. And also something to note as well with Thursday, that's when we have that exact Venus-Neptune square, which also can help maybe break the delusion or break the fantasy. It's like, I'm no longer allowing myself to be caught in this narrative that no longer feels good for me. So yeah, Thursday, do some heavy reflection post full moon. It might also feel like one of those hangover full moons where you're like, oh, this is a lot to take in, or a lot of realities being shattered at once. And then with the moon and Saturn, whenever we have aspects, it can go either way. I'm kind of happy because we have that trine with Venus, but remember, we still have the moon making a square to Uranus. So again, I think that this square can help us, even if that change maybe feels uncomfortable. You know, the change is going to help you get to a place where you're a lot happier, or be in a situation where you're available for better relationships or better long-term structures that are going to support you. So Of course, this is going to manifest differently for everyone, depending on your chart, depending on where you are in life, but don't be afraid of the change. Don't be afraid of reclaiming your power to get to where you want to be. And I keep hearing it's like, don't allow other people of power and influence, whether it be parents, your boss, someone who you care about, deter you from what naturally feels good or what intuitively feels aligned for you. I'll leave it at that because that feels very succinct. Saturday, Moon in Pisces. This is a lot easier, a lot more relaxed, especially after the past few days. And we also have the Sun, Mercury, Cazimi, which is really nice. So I just think that things will be a lot more clear. You're going to be able to express yourself a lot more authentically, or having more loving conversations. Maybe there might be an opportunity to come back with certain people that didn't understand your choice, or to be connecting with people on a more intimate, loving energy or level. So I like Saturday a lot. We also have the moon making a sextile to Mars. So it just seems like, also too, I wrote down, if you break up with someone, there might be an opportunity to honor one another last time, or maybe you hit a new level of intimacy with a lover and now you're taking that intimacy one step further. I just kind of feel with that moon Mars sextile, especially with Mars and Taurus, and then we also have the Sun Mercury Cazimi. It's like, oh, this is like an opportunity to really deepen our love, intimacy, and passion on a greater level. I'm sure you all know what I mean. YouTube has interesting guidelines that one must adhere to with explicit content. So I'm always like, they're going to understand what I'm talking about here. Maybe for the future podcast, if it manifests, I can be more candid and scorpionic. Yes. Sunday, we've been talking about grand trines a lot in the past couple of weeks. So we also have a grand trine on Sunday, which is really beautiful. So the moon in Pisces conjunct Neptune, and we also have the trine with the Sun and Mercury in Cancer and the South Node in Scorpio. So this just seems to expand on the energies that we talked about yesterday, but then also to take it one step further. Dream work, intuition, manifestation, ritual work, everything and anything that you want to channel and intuit. This is going to be a beautiful day to do so. Be very careful who you hang around with, right? We talked about water being a vessel and being very influenced with what gets put into it or surrounds it. So I think this is a really good jovial energy. We also see that Venus is in her final degree of Gemini. So I would go out, go have fun, celebrate, be around people that you love, because this is all kind of supporting it. And especially after a very intense, very shifting, or a week that put a lot of things into perspective, this can be a day to just enjoy. Saturday is a really good day to decompress with that moon in Pisces. You might just want to sleep all day and just rest. Sunday, if someone asks you to go hang out, go to a meditation class, go by the water, do something fun and relaxed, I would enjoy that invitation if it feels good for you, or just continue being on your own. A good day to get lost in a book, a movie, a TV show, whatever you want. Dreams will be going off for sure Saturday, Sunday night. So be aware of what comes through in that capacity, because I'm sure it'll provide more downloads or more intuitive energy to support you into Leo season, which is coming up right around the corner. Also, remember when I said that Mars Uranus North Node conjunction is happening at the end of July, beginning of August? That also happens right after the Leo new moon. So that'll be really curious in terms of, we talked about a lot of change going on. I feel like for those who don't take that nudge or the invitation to change, it'll kind of be like a tower moment where at the end of July, after that Leo new moon, it's like, okay, you didn't listen. Now this change is going to be enacted no matter what. I'm not saying it's going to be like that, but I think I've had a lot of clients recently in the past couple of weeks where they want to do something and they want to pursue a certain career, relationship, or city, and they don't. And then it's later on, they're maybe not as happy as they could be, or they're like, I'm still thinking about doing that. It's like, okay, well, maybe we can entertain or start making the proper steps to make that change a reality. So like I said, that Capricorn full moon, be aware of what changes are coming through and where you want to shift your energy, because that'll most likely come through again at the end of the month. So for the astrology question of the week from last week, Annie Kidd asks, my sun is straddling my 7th and 8th house. Do I interpret it as being in the 7th or the 8th? I have many planets in both houses, all my personal planets. So I've just assumed both houses are equally energized. I resonate with the energy of both houses equally. So this is a really good question. We've talked about before with different house systems, and that can influence things a lot, because people will say, if I'm using Placidus, my sun is in, let's say, the 7th house. So if I'm using Whole Sign, now my sun is in the 8th house. So first of all, for any planet or placement, which house system do you want to abide to? I personally use whole sign houses, but whichever one you're using, that should be the first thing you want to discern when you're looking at a certain placement. Second of all, I've talked about this with cusps, when people are like, oh, I'm a Gemini Cancer cusp, or whatever they end up saying. I don't believe in cusps personally. You're either 29 degrees in the 7th house or 0 degrees in the 8th house. So for this specific question, Annie, if your sun is, let's say, 28, 29 degrees in the 7th house, then I would interpret your house as being in the 7th house. And I would really look to the 7th house. If that's where you shine as well, I think for the sun, it can be a lot more obvious, being a luminary. And if that's where you put in a lot of your energy, or where a lot of people see you really being a prominent force, or the 7th house also where we find our marriage. So that's where you really have a lot of power, or where you really enjoy being. That's, again, a little hint or a clue where you can discern. It's like, oh yeah, it makes more sense that my sun is here. And like in this question specifically, all of their personal planets are in the 7th and 8th. So that can also be going back to cusp, when people are like, oh, I feel like I'm like a Gemini and a Cancer. Well, their sun could be in Gemini and their Mercury could be in Cancer. And so those two planets obviously affect both our vitality, energy, spirit, but then also how we communicate. So it would make sense that both of those energies are infused. And naturally, if you have many planets in, let's say, the 7th and the 8th, you're going to feel them very equally, of course. But for this specific question, or in general, if the placement or the planet is in 28, 29 degrees, it's in that house and in that sign. Even if it's 29 degrees and 59 minutes, it's still going to be in that house and in that sign. And one thing just to note to see how that feels is whenever we have planets transit on that placement, it becomes very obvious of what's happening. So let's say Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, you're going to feel those on there. And I mean, Jupiter, you won't really feel because of like once every 12 years. But the other placements, you'll feel more regularly. Mercury, you'll get that at least once a year. So I would just play with that. And that can be for all of us to better understand our chart, is when those planets are in transit, see how it feels when it's hitting a major luminary. Or let's say if you are a cardinal placement that has a planet in those late degrees, because currently Pluto, like if we look at that just really quick, Pluto right now is at 27 degrees of Capricorn, and we're going to have that Capricorn full moon this week, right? So if you are cardinal placement right now that has anything, so cardinal signs are Capricorn, Aries, Cancer, or Libra. If you have any cardinal placement between 25 to 29 degrees, you are going to feel some kind of powerful change happening with Pluto making an aspect to that planet. So you can start to feel, if you're thinking that it's like, why do I keep feeling like I'm running up that hill, or feel like I have to move so much energy, or that I'm consistently going through the death and rebirth cycle in this example with late cardinal placements, it's because Pluto is there right now, really forcing you or allowing you for that evolution to occur. So this is kind of like a 2-in-1 question, very, again, this Gemini energy, Venus taking the wheel with the moon opposing Venus as I'm recording this, so very timely. So I'll put timestamps for both kind of questions that I answered, the first one, then how the second one just came about. And that way you guys have that for future reference, okay? Perfect. As per usual, I'll have the full moon workshop available come Wednesday, so you can check that out on our website. Any other general questions that you're curious about, feel free to leave them in the comments. Other than that, have a beautiful week. Remember to get grounded at the start of the week so that full moon can allow for very clear, concise action. Enjoy the weekend with all of that beautiful water energy at your disposal. Talk to you later. Bye.